Every day we face an invisible battle that takes place within the confines of our own minds. It's a struggle that often goes unnoticed by the outside world, yet it shapes everything we do, every decision we make, and every relationship we hold. The thoughts that run through our heads can either build us up or tear us down, pushing us towards strength or pulling us into despair. This internal conflict is not just a challenge, it's a war for our very peace and purpose. Every person experiences a battle in their mind. Though it is not always visible to the outside world, it is a silent war, fought in the quiet spaces of thought and emotion, where victories and defeats are determined. This battle is relentless, taking place every moment, between competing desires, fears, and convictions. The mind, the very place where thoughts are born, is the battlefield where the forces of good and evil, truth and lies, are in constant conflict. On the surface, the mind may seem like a place of peace or calm, but beneath that surface lies a constant stream of thoughts, emotions and desires, many of which are beyond a person's immediate control. The mind is like a fertile field. What is sown there will grow and produce fruit, whether good or bad. It is here in the hidden realm of the mind, where the first steps toward either victory or defeat are taken. In this battle, one side seeks to plant thoughts of hope, peace and purpose, while the other seeks to instill doubt, fear and despair. Both sides push for dominance over the mind. At any given moment, a person might experience conflicting thoughts, one telling them that they are capable of overcoming challenges, and another telling them they will never succeed. The outcome of this conflict often shapes not only how a person views themselves but also how they perceive their circumstances and their future. The mind is not a neutral space. It is a place that is constantly under attack, not only from external pressures and challenges, but also from internal doubts, insecurities and fears. These internal forces can be far more dangerous, because they often go unrecognized, slowly eroding confidence and peace over time. The voices within the mind are powerful. They influence a person's behavior, shape their identity, and impact the way they view the world around them. At its core, the battle of the mind is a fight for control. When the mind is allowed to drift without discipline, it becomes susceptible to negative thinking and harmful patterns. The tendency to dwell on past mistakes, overthink future worries, or entertain fears that haven't even come to pass, can all create a cycle of anxiety and discouragement. When left unchecked, these thoughts can dominate, leading a person to feel helpless, hopeless, and overwhelmed by life's challenges. Every thought that enters the mind holds the potential to either build up or tear down. Thoughts can be seeds that grow into attitudes, actions, and behaviors. Is it a circle to attitudes, actions, and behaviors? Positive thoughts about self-worth and purpose can lead to a life of confidence and strength, while negative thoughts of inadequacy and failure can lead to a life of fear, insecurity, and defeat. The mind is a powerful tool. What it thinks it becomes. That's why the battle within it is so crucial. This battle is not a one-time event, but a continuous struggle. Every day a person must choose what to allow into their minds. Without vigilance, negativity can take root. Fear, doubt, and insecurity creep in subtly, often disguised as small worries or innocent thoughts, but over time they grow and take hold. The mind, when left unguarded, can become a breeding ground for thoughts that lead to paralysis or self-sabotage. The battle of the mind is not one fought only on the personal level. It is a universal struggle that affects all people in different ways. Whether a person is battling against feelings of worthlessness, fear of the future, or frustration with past mistakes, the battle is universal. No one is exempt from these internal conflicts. Some may face a battle against regret, others against doubt, and still others against bitterness or anxiety. The common thread is that everyone experiences this inner struggle to some degree. However, the mind is not only a place of conflict, but also a place of opportunity. The battle of the mind offers the chance to cultivate resilience, strength, and wisdom. It is in the heat of this battle that growth occurs, where a person's character is shaped and refined. The outcome of the battle is not determined solely by the thoughts that arise, but by how those thoughts are dealt with. The ability to choose what to focus on, to challenge negative beliefs and to replace lies with truth is what ultimately shapes the mind's course. Winning the battle of the mind requires discipline. It requires not allowing harmful thoughts to take root and not giving in to emotions like fear and doubt that arise in moments of weakness. It is a constant effort to align one's thoughts with truth and purpose, even in the face of uncertainty. The battle is not won by ignoring the negative thoughts, but by confronting them head on and choosing to replace them with healthier, more constructive ones. This battle also requires discernment, the ability to distinguish between the lies that may come from external sources or internal fears and the truth that leads to peace and confidence. It requires the wisdom to recognize which thoughts are life-giving and which are destructive. Discernment is the key to navigating the inner turmoil and preventing it from taking over. Without it, a person may fall victim to every passing thought, allowing their mind to be tossed by every wave of doubt or fear. One of the most powerful tools in this battle is self-awareness. Understanding the thoughts that dominate the mind and recognizing when negative patterns emerge is the first step in regaining control. The ability to identify when fear, doubt, or insecurity is taking hold enables a person to actively challenge those thoughts before they have the opportunity to take root. Self-awareness helps a person to stay grounded and centered, preventing the mind from spiraling into negativity. The battle of the mind is not just an individual struggle, it is connected to larger forces at work. The mind is constantly under pressure, not only from personal struggles, but also from the world around us. Society, media, and even those closest to us can influence our thoughts in powerful ways. The battle is not just between positive and negative thinking, it is also a fight to guard the mind against harmful external influences that can shape our beliefs and perceptions. In this battle, the stakes are high. The outcome of the battle within the mind influences every area of life, from relationships to career to personal well-being. If the mind is left to wander aimlessly, it can easily fall into destructive patterns that lead to anxiety, depression, and a sense of helplessness. But if the mind is trained to focus on truth, resilience, and hope, it can lead to a life of peace, purpose, and strength. The battle is not one that can be avoided, but it is one that can be won. It is a constant fight, but one that ultimately shapes the future and destiny of those who are willing to engage with it. The thoughts that occupy a person's mind are far from insignificant. They are the silent architects of life, subtly but powerfully influencing the decisions, actions, and behaviors that define a person's existence. Every thought, no matter how small or fleeting, has the potential to shape the course of one's day, interactions, and even long-term outcomes. This is because thoughts have an undeniable power over the mind, and by extension, over the direction of life. They are the seeds from which emotions, actions, and habits grow, ultimately leading to patterns that define a person's worldview and how they respond to the world around them. Thoughts may seem like transient things, coming and going without much notice, but they are in fact deeply consequential. The mind is constantly at work, processing, analyzing, and interpreting the information it receives. Every experience, whether positive or negative, is filtered through the lens of thought. What a person thinks about their experience, relationships, and even themselves determines how they will respond to those experiences. For example, a person who thinks they are unworthy of love may act in ways that push people away, reinforcing the very belief that they are unworthy. Conversely, a person who holds the belief that they are loved and capable may approach life with confidence, inviting positive experiences that reflect that belief. The power of thoughts is further evident in how they affect emotions. Thoughts shape feelings, and feelings shape actions. For instance, if a person consistently entertains thoughts of fear or anxiety, it will be reflected in their emotions, leading to a sense of unease, worry, or tension. On the other hand, thoughts of gratitude, hope, and joy lead to feelings of peace, contentment, and satisfaction. The mind is a lens through which the world is experienced, and the way it filters those experiences will directly influence emotional responses. It is in this way that the thoughts we choose to focus on have a profound impact on our emotional well-being. But the influence of thoughts doesn't stop at emotions. It extends to the way we act and behave. Thoughts often precede action, acting as a roadmap that guides decisions. Whether consciously or unconsciously, we tend to act in ways that align with what we believe and think. If a person believes they are capable of achieving something, their thoughts will prompt them to take the necessary actions to make it happen. On the contrary, if someone believes they are incapable, their actions will often reflect that belief, resulting in inaction, avoidance, or self-sabotage. The thought patterns we carry with us directly affect the outcomes we experience. Our thoughts also have the power to shape the relationships we cultivate. A person who believes they are unworthy or undeserving of love may keep people at arm's length, unwilling to open up or connect deeply with others. In this way, their thoughts create barriers to intimacy and connection. On the other hand, a person who believes in their inherent value and worth will likely build healthier, more meaningful relationships because their thoughts foster a sense of self-respect and openness. In relationships, thoughts about others can also shape how they are treated. If someone constantly thinks poorly of others, it often leads to distrust, negativity, and conflict. Alternatively, if someone holds thoughts of kindness, understanding, and compassion, their actions will reflect these qualities, leading to more harmonious interactions. The power of thoughts is also seen in the way they influence habits. Habits are formed by repeated actions, and those actions are the result of the thoughts we think on a consistent basis. If a person frequently thinks about improving their health, for example, their thoughts will lead to actions that support that goal, such as exercising, eating well, or getting enough rest. Conversely, if someone thinks about how difficult it is to stay healthy, their thoughts will often lead them to habits that reinforce the belief that health is out of reach, such as skipping exercise or indulging in unhealthy food choices. In this way, thoughts directly contribute to the formation of habits that either build or hinder a person's goals. Thoughts influence self-perception, which in turn influences how we present ourselves to the world. The thoughts we have about ourselves, whether positive or negative, determine our self-esteem, confidence, and the way we carry ourselves. If someone frequently thinks they are not good enough, those thoughts will manifest in a lack of self-assurance, which others will perceive. Conversely, someone who thinks positively about their abilities and value will project confidence and self-assurance, which often leads to more opportunities and success. Our internal dialogue creates a narrative that affects not only how we feel, but also how we act, and how we act influences how others perceive us. The power of thoughts extends beyond the individual. It can impact entire communities or groups. Collective thoughts within a family, workplace, or society can shape the culture and dynamics of that environment. If the prevailing thoughts in a family are negative, critical, or fearful, the relationships within that family are likely to reflect those thoughts, creating an atmosphere of tension and division. Conversely, if the dominant thoughts in a family are supportive, optimistic, and nurturing, the environment will foster growth, love, and cooperation. Similarly, in the workplace or within a community, the collective mindset can either encourage creativity, collaboration, and success, or breed competition, mistrust, and stagnation. One of the most profound impacts of thoughts is on a person's overall sense of purpose and direction in life. The thoughts we entertain about our purpose, our goals, and our future determine the actions we take to move toward or away from those things. A person who constantly thinks about how uncertain or difficult the future may be, may find themselves paralyzed, unable to make decisions or take meaningful steps forward. In contrast, someone who focuses on the opportunities ahead, despite the challenges, will likely take proactive steps toward their dreams, bringing them closer to their goals. The mind has the ability to either focus on obstacles and setbacks, or on possibilities and opportunities, and that focus determines the trajectory of one's life. Thoughts are also influenced by the environment and external factors, but they are not entirely out of an individual's control. While it is true that external influences such as media, culture, or even other people can shape the thoughts that come into our minds, we have the power to choose which thoughts we will entertain and which we will reject. This is where personal responsibility comes into play. We may not always be able to control the thoughts that arise, but we can control how we respond to them and which ones we choose to focus on. Developing awareness of the thoughts that dominate our minds is crucial to understanding how they affect our lives. Recognizing when negative, harmful, or unproductive thoughts arise and actively replacing them with healthier, more empowering thoughts can change the entire course of a person's life. Thoughts are powerful beyond measure. They shape emotions, guide actions, influence relationships, and even determine success or failure. The mind is not just a passive observer of the world, it is an active force that shapes how a person interacts with life itself. Recognizing the power of thoughts and taking responsibility for what fills the mind can lead to a life of intentionality, purpose, and positive change. It is not the circumstances that define a person's life, but how they think about and respond to those circumstances. Therefore, mastering the thoughts within the mind is the first step in mastering one's life. The enemy's tactics are subtle and often go unnoticed until they have already taken root in the mind. The mind is a battleground, and just as in any battle, there are strategies used to weaken the defenses of the one who is under attack. The enemy seeks to distort perception, influence emotions, and manipulate thought patterns to create confusion and despair. These tactics are not always obvious, often appearing as fleeting doubts, nagging fears, or small lies that gradually grow in strength the longer they are allowed to take hold. It is through these small, seemingly insignificant moments that the enemy works to undermine peace and stability, leaving individuals vulnerable to larger attacks on their sense of identity, purpose, and hope. One of the most common tactics used is the planting of seeds of doubt. Doubt is a powerful tool because it causes a person to question everything they believe to be true, including their worth, abilities, and even their relationship with others. The enemy does not need to bring about immediate, dramatic change. Instead, it is often enough to make a person wonder, even for a moment, if they are truly capable or deserving of the good things in their lives. These doubts, when nurtured, grow into insecurities that can alter behavior and cause individuals to pull back from opportunities, relationships, or dreams they would otherwise pursue. They begin to second-guess their decisions and become paralyzed by the fear of making mistakes. The enemy uses doubt to create hesitation, uncertainty, and self-doubt, making it harder for people to step forward in confidence or trust in themselves. Another tactic is the use of fear, which can cripple a person's ability to think clearly or make rational decisions. Fear is often the result of worrying about what might happen in the future, especially when it involves things that are beyond one's control. The enemy exploits this by magnifying uncertainties, convincing individuals that something terrible is going to happen, even if there is no evidence to support it. This fear becomes a lens through which everything is viewed, coloring one's perception of reality. The fear of failure, rejection, or harm can keep a person from moving forward in life, leading them to avoid risks or opportunities that could lead to growth. Instead of acting with courage or hope, they act from a place of fear, which prevents them from fully living or experiencing the possibilities that life offers. This constant state of anxiety drains energy and focus, making it difficult to think clearly or see the positive aspects of a situation. The enemy also exploits past hurts and unresolved pain. By reminding individuals of past mistakes, betrayals, or failures, the enemy seeks to keep people trapped in a cycle of regret and bitterness. These memories can become distorted over time, causing a person to believe that their past defines their future. The enemy uses this tactic to rob individuals of their joy and peace by keeping them focused on what they cannot change. Past failures and regrets become the filter through which they view all future endeavors, making it difficult to take risks or move forward in confidence. They may believe that because they failed once, they will always fail, or that they are unworthy of success or happiness. This false narrative traps people in a cycle of negative thinking, preventing them from fully embracing the present or looking toward a brighter future. Another strategy used by the enemy is the distortion of truth. The enemy works to convince individuals that what they know to be true is not true, or that the truth is relative and can be bent to suit one's needs. This tactic often leads people to doubt their values, beliefs, and principles. They may begin to question their moral compass, wondering if the standards they hold are outdated or unrealistic. The enemy can twist a person's understanding of right and wrong, good and bad, until they find themselves lost in confusion. What was once clear becomes blurry, and decisions that were once easy to make become more difficult. The enemy doesn't need to completely overturn a person's beliefs. It is enough to introduce confusion or ambiguity, leading individuals to live in a state of constant uncertainty and indecision. This lack of clarity can cause a person to feel disconnected from their sense of purpose or identity. The enemy's tactics also include isolation. By sowing feelings of loneliness, rejection, or inadequacy, the enemy can cause individuals to withdraw from others, believing that they are not worthy of companionship or support. This isolation weakens the mind and spirit, as humans are created for connection and community. When isolated, people are more vulnerable to the negative thoughts and fears that the enemy seeks to plant. Isolation amplifies negative emotions, as there is no one around to offer perspective, encouragement, or truth. It becomes easier for lies to flourish in the silence, and the person becomes disconnected from the support and love that could help them overcome their struggles. The enemy uses this tactic to break down relationships, causing divisions and misunderstandings that create rifts between people. The more isolated an individual feels, the more susceptible they are to falling into despair and hopelessness. Another common tactic is the overwhelming of the mind with distractions. In the modern world, distractions are endless. Social media, entertainment, work, and 1,000 other things compete for attention. The enemy uses these distractions to keep individuals from focusing on what truly matters, preventing them from finding peace or clarity. By constantly bombarding the mind with noise and busyness, the enemy keeps people from pausing long enough to reflect on their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Distractions provide temporary relief from the tension of the battle, but they do nothing to address the underlying issues. They prevent individuals from gaining insight into their true struggles, and prevent them from seeking the deeper healing and growth they need. The enemy seeks to fill every moment with something else, keeping individuals from ever having a quiet space in which to confront the issues that truly matter. Finally, the enemy uses the tactic of discouragement, constantly whispering that things will never get better, that nothing will ever change, and that all efforts are futile. This persistent negativity wears down the will to fight, causing individuals to give up on their goals, dreams, and even their own well-being. Discouragement is a powerful tool because it erodes hope and faith. When people lose hope, they stop trying. They may resign themselves to the idea that they are stuck in their current situation, and that change is impossible. This lie keeps people from seeing the possibility of transformation, and they become trapped in the belief that their circumstances define them. The enemy's tactics are many and varied, but their purpose is singular: to weaken the mind, to create confusion, fear, and doubt, and ultimately to rob people of peace, purpose, and joy. By recognizing these tactics, individuals can become more vigilant in guarding their minds, choosing to replace the lies with truth, and rejecting the negative thoughts that seek to hold them back. Awareness is the first step in overcoming these attacks, and with perseverance, strength, and the right support, individuals can fight back against the subtle and persistent tactics of the enemy. Fear and doubt are two of the most powerful forces that wage war against the mind, often causing individuals to feel as though they are trapped in an internal struggle that they cannot escape. These emotions can take hold in a way that distorts reality, leaving a person immobilized and unsure of their own abilities. Fear, which is typically tied to the anticipation of something that might happen in the future, has the ability to paralyze thought and action. It can lead individuals to become fixated on worst-case scenarios, ignoring the reality of the present and turning small concerns into insurmountable obstacles. Doubt, on the other hand, often clouds a person's judgment and causes them to question themselves, their decisions, and their worth. Together, fear and doubt create a powerful cycle of negativity that can keep a person from taking meaningful steps forward in life. The root of fear often lies in the unknown. The human mind has a tendency to create worst-case scenarios when faced with uncertainty, and these imagined dangers can feel just as real as actual threats. The fear of failure, rejection, or harm can keep a person stuck in a state of anxiety, unable to move forward with confidence. Fear can cause individuals to avoid situations where they might experience discomfort or challenge, even if these situations offer the potential for growth. This avoidance of discomfort keeps people in a state of complacency, never allowing them to test their limits or push beyond their comfort zones. The fear of making a mistake or failing can be so strong that it prevents individuals from even trying. Instead of taking risks and learning from their experiences, they retreat into the safety of the familiar, where they feel they have control. However, this false sense of security only serves to reinforce the fear, making it even more difficult to step out in faith and face the challenges that come with personal growth. Doubt, while similar to fear, operates more internally and is often directed at a person's abilities or worth. It is a constant questioning of one's own competence, decisions, and direction in life. Doubt can be especially insidious because it often appears as a subtle whisper that undermines confidence and self-esteem. A person who doubts their own abilities may hesitate to take action, feeling that they are not capable of achieving their goals or fulfilling their potential. This internal questioning can be relentless, causing the person to second-guess every decision and making it hard to move forward with clarity. When doubt takes hold, it often leads to a lack of self-trust, and without self-trust, it becomes increasingly difficult to pursue one's dreams or take risks. Even when opportunities present themselves, doubt can make a person feel unworthy or unprepared, leading them to pass them by. The constant mental tug-of-war between doubt and the desire to move forward can drain energy and prevent a person from fully engaging with life. Both fear and doubt have the ability to shape perception in a way that distorts reality. When someone is gripped by fear, they may begin to see every situation through the lens of potential danger or failure. A simple task may seem overwhelming, and every challenge may appear as an insurmountable obstacle. This distorted view can prevent a person from taking necessary risks or embracing new opportunities. Similarly, when doubt takes hold, it clouds a person's ability to see their strengths and capabilities. Instead of focusing on what they can do, they are consumed by thoughts of what they might not be able to achieve. These negative thought patterns reinforce the cycle of fear and doubt, leading individuals to make decisions based on these distorted perceptions, rather than on reality. This makes it difficult to make progress, as the mind is continually drawn back to the same fears and doubts that prevent action. Fear and doubt are also contagious. When one person is overwhelmed by fear or doubt, it can influence the people around them. Those who are close to someone struggling with these emotions may begin to adopt similar thought patterns. The fear of failure can spread through a community or group, causing others to feel apprehensive about pursuing their goals or dreams. Similarly, doubt can cause individuals to question the choices or abilities of others, leading to a lack of confidence in collective endeavors. This creates an environment where uncertainty and insecurity are magnified, making it even more difficult for people to find the courage to take action. The struggle with fear and doubt is not just about individual growth. It can have a profound impact on relationships. Fear can cause people to pull back, avoiding deep connections or conversations that might lead to vulnerability. It can prevent individuals from being honest about their feelings or from expressing their true selves for fear of judgment or rejection. Doubt, on the other hand, can cause a person to question the intentions or sincerity of others. They may become suspicious or paranoid, doubting the authenticity of relationships or the motives of those around them. This can lead to misunderstandings, conflict, and distance between individuals, as trust becomes eroded by the constant questioning and uncertainty brought on by fear and doubt. The impact of fear and doubt is also seen in a person's sense of purpose and direction. Fear of failure can lead to a lack of motivation as individuals become convinced that their efforts will ultimately be futile. This can result in procrastination or avoidance, preventing a person from taking action toward their goals. Likewise, doubt about one's worth or abilities can cause a person to lose sight of their potential and purpose. When individuals doubt themselves, they may feel disconnected from their passions or unsure of their path. This lack of clarity can lead to confusion, indecision, and a sense of being stuck. Without a clear sense of purpose, it becomes harder to move forward with confidence or to take the necessary steps toward personal fulfillment. Fear and doubt can feed into each other, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. A person who is fearful of failure may begin to doubt their abilities, and in turn, their doubt makes them more fearful of taking action. This cycle continues, with fear and doubt reinforcing one another, making it harder to escape the mental grip they have on the mind. The more a person focuses on their fears and doubts, the more power these emotions have over them. They begin to believe that they are incapable of overcoming their challenges, and the cycle of negativity becomes entrenched. This is where the battle of the mind becomes most intense, as the individual struggles to regain control of their thoughts and break free from the paralyzing grip of fear and doubt. In overcoming fear and doubt, it is essential to recognize that these emotions are not permanent states, but rather temporary feelings that can be managed. A person does not have to be controlled by fear or doubt. They have the ability to choose how they respond to these emotions. The first step in overcoming them is to acknowledge their presence without allowing them to dictate behavior. Understanding that fear and doubt are natural parts of the human experience, but not allowing them to control one's actions, is crucial. With awareness, courage, and the right tools, it is possible to move beyond these emotions and take steps forward in life, even when uncertainty and fear are present. The key is to push through the fear, challenge the doubts, and continue moving forward in faith, even when the path ahead seems unclear. One of the most powerful tactics the enemy uses to attack the mind is the overwhelming force of negativity. This manifests in various forms: pessimism, self-criticism, and an unrelenting focus on flaws and shortcomings. The mind becomes a constant echo chamber of discouragement, magnifying every failure and mistake, while minimizing successes. This creates a distorted perception of reality, where the negative aspects of life take center stage and everything else is pushed to the background. It is in this environment that the enemy works most effectively, keeping individuals trapped in a cycle of defeat, discouragement, and hopelessness. The result is a mind that is unable to see beyond its present struggles, unable to recognize the possibility of change or the potential for growth. The enemy knows that if the mind is consistently filled with negative thoughts, it becomes increasingly difficult for a person to experience peace, joy, or hope. Negativity doesn't just cloud the mind, it also impacts emotions and actions. A person who is constantly focused on what is wrong in their life may begin to feel overwhelmed, defeated, and exhausted. The weight of negativity pulls them down, preventing them from seeing the positive aspects of their situation or taking constructive action. In the worst cases, individuals become consumed by negative thinking, believing that things will never improve, and that their circumstances will never change. The enemy uses this to keep people stuck, unable to break free from a mindset of despair and hopelessness. Self-criticism plays a significant role in the spread of negativity within the mind. People often become their own harshest critics, constantly measuring themselves against unrealistic standards. Every mistake, every shortcoming, and every failure becomes evidence of their inadequacy. The enemy amplifies this self-criticism, making individuals believe that they are not worthy of love, success, or happiness. This voice of self-doubt becomes louder and more persistent, drowning out any sense of self-worth or confidence. The person may begin to internalize these negative thoughts, leading them to doubt their abilities and feel unworthy of their accomplishments. This ongoing self-criticism erodes their sense of identity and makes it difficult to embrace the positive qualities they possess. Pessimism, too, is a key aspect of the enemy's strategy. The individual who is constantly anticipating the worst outcome in any situation is unable to approach life with optimism or hope. Pessimism often prevents people from taking risks or pursuing new opportunities, as they are consumed by the belief that things will not work out. This mindset leads to a life characterized by fear of failure, hesitation, and missed opportunities. The enemy's goal is to make the individual so afraid of what might happen that they refuse to take action at all, leaving them trapped in a life of inaction and stagnation. By focusing on what could go wrong rather than what could go right, the person's energy is consumed by worry and fear, leaving no room for courage or initiative. The impact of negativity is not confined to the mind alone. It spreads to all areas of life. Relationships, for example, can be deeply affected by a negative mindset. A person who constantly sees the world through a lens of pessimism may begin to view others through the same distorted lens. They may assume the worst about people's intentions, creating an environment of mistrust and distance. In the same way, a person who is consumed by negativity may withdraw from relationships, fearing rejection or disappointment. This isolation only exacerbates the negative thoughts and feelings, creating a vicious cycle of loneliness and disconnection. The enemy seeks to destroy relationships by sowing seeds of doubt, distrust, and insecurity, making it difficult for individuals to connect with others in a meaningful and supportive way. The work of negativity can also be seen in the way it affects a person's sense of purpose and motivation. When a person's mind is constantly filled with thoughts of failure, inadequacy, and defeat, it becomes impossible to take meaningful action toward their goals. The enemy's strategy is simple: keep the individual focused on what isn't working, so they stop striving for what could work. The mind becomes so consumed with what has gone wrong in the past that it loses sight of what could go right in the future. The individual may feel that their efforts are futile, that nothing they do will ever make a difference, or that they are simply not capable of achieving their goals. This discouragement leads to inaction and stagnation, as the individual becomes paralyzed by the weight of negativity and self-doubt. When negativity begins to dominate the mind, it becomes difficult to see anything else. The individual may start to believe that their problems are insurmountable, that they are destined to live a life of failure and defeat. This hopelessness is one of the enemy's most powerful weapons, as it causes the person to stop fighting, to stop believing in the possibility of change, and to settle for a life that falls short of their potential. The enemy's goal is to rob the individual of their ability to dream, to hope, and to aspire toward a better future. By filling the mind with negativity, the enemy makes it harder for the individual to see the potential for positive change or transformation in their life. The impact of negativity is not limited to the individual alone. It can also extend to the people around them. A person who is constantly negative and critical can have a detrimental effect on those they interact with. Negativity is contagious, and those who are around a person filled with negative thoughts and attitudes often begin to adopt the same mindset. This can lead to a toxic environment, where everyone is focused on what is wrong, rather than what is right, where fear and doubt become the dominant emotions, and where hope and optimism are in short supply. The enemy uses this to sow division and discontent, creating an atmosphere of fear and mistrust that makes it difficult for people to work together, support one another, or find common ground. Breaking free from the grip of negativity requires a conscious effort to shift one's mindset. It involves recognizing the destructive power of negative thinking and choosing to replace those thoughts with healthier, more constructive ones. The first step is awareness, becoming aware of the negative thoughts that dominate the mind and acknowledging their impact. Once this awareness is established, it becomes possible to challenge those thoughts, replacing them with truths that are more aligned with reality. This is not an easy task, as negativity has a tendency to take hold quickly and can feel overwhelming. However, by intentionally choosing to focus on what is good, what is hopeful, and what is possible, the individual can begin to break the cycle of negativity and create space for more positive, empowering thoughts. The process of overcoming negativity involves a commitment to changing how the mind operates. It requires replacing the automatic negative thought patterns with ones that are more balanced and realistic. This may involve practicing gratitude, focusing on positive experiences, or seeking out supportive relationships that encourage growth and optimism. By intentionally cultivating a mindset that is focused on hope, possibility, and progress, the individual can begin to rebuild their sense of self-worth, confidence, and purpose. The journey out of negativity may be long and difficult, but it is possible, and with determination and support, individuals can find freedom from the destructive power of negative thinking. The battle for the mind is not won overnight, but with each small victory, the individual gains ground and begins to break free from the lies that have held them captive. Significant strategies the enemy uses in the battle of the mind is the tactic of isolation. This tactic can be incredibly effective because it preys on an individual's natural need for connection, support, and community. When a person is isolated, whether physically, emotionally, or spiritually, they become vulnerable to negative thoughts, doubts, and fears. Isolation breeds a sense of loneliness, disconnect, and hopelessness that weakens the individual's mental and emotional defenses, making it much easier for harmful thoughts to take root and thrive. The enemy doesn't need to directly confront the individual or overwhelm them with obvious attacks. Instead, it works more subtly, causing the person to feel alienated from others and disconnected from their support system. This isolation can begin with small feelings of loneliness or disconnection, but it gradually intensifies, making the individual believe that they are alone in their struggles and that no one could possibly understand what they are going through. As this feeling deepens, it becomes easier to fall into negative thought patterns, where the mind is consumed with self-doubt and hopelessness. Without others to provide encouragement, perspective, or even a listening ear, the individual can become trapped in their own mind, where negativity has the room to grow unchecked. The enemy uses isolation to magnify fear and anxiety. When a person feels isolated, they often begin to overthink situations, creating fears that are larger than life. In the absence of other voices to provide clarity or reality checks, their imagination can run wild, and they begin to believe that their worst fears will come true. They might dwell on past failures or mistakes, convinced that they are incapable of moving forward. The enemy takes advantage of these isolated moments to plant doubts about the future, reinforcing feelings of uncertainty, and making the individual believe that change is impossible. Without the presence of others to challenge these thoughts or offer reassurance, the individual may feel paralyzed by the overwhelming mind is by eroding self-esteem and self-worth. When people are isolated, they often begin to question their value and they may compare themselves to others, feeling that they fall short in some way. The enemy amplifies these insecurities, making the individual feel that they are unworthy of love, support, or companionship. They may begin to withdraw further from others, convinced that they don't deserve to be part of a community, or that others would be better off without them. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As the more isolated they become, the more their sense of worth diminishes. The individual may start to internalize these negative beliefs, leading them to believe that they are broken or incapable of forming meaningful relationships. Isolation also increases the individual's susceptibility to temptation and destructive thought patterns. When alone, the mind can easily turn to self-destructive behaviors as a way to cope with the pain of isolation. This can include unhealthy habits like substance abuse, excessive eating, or harmful thought processes like self-loathing. Without the accountability of others to help guide them, the person may spiral further into negative behaviors that feed into their sense of inadequacy. These behaviors can serve as temporary distractions from the emotional and mental turmoil caused by isolation, but they do nothing to address the root causes of the pain. The enemy knows that isolation allows these negative coping mechanisms to flourish, keeping the individual trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and despair. The emotional toll of isolation also plays a significant role in the weakening of the mind. A person who is isolated often feels that their emotions are too much for others to handle, or that no one would understand the depth of their struggle. This leads to a sense of internalized shame, as they hide their true feelings out of fear of rejection or judgment. This silence allows the enemy to continue working in the background, making the individual feel as if they are fighting an invisible battle that no one can see or understand. The longer a person remains isolated, the more difficult it becomes to open up to others, or to seek the help and support that is desperately needed. This growing sense of shame keeps the individual isolated even further, reinforcing the false belief that they are beyond help or redemption. It is important to recognize that isolation is not always physical. Many people may be surrounded by others, but still feel a profound sense of isolation because of emotional or spiritual distance. This form of isolation can be even more insidious because it can be hidden behind a facade of social interactions. People may smile, engage in conversation, and go about their daily routines, all the while feeling disconnected from those around them. The enemy works here by convincing the person that no one truly understands them, or that their struggles are unique to them. This sense of emotional distance can cause individuals to feel isolated within their own relationships, believing that they cannot truly connect with others, or that others cannot offer the help or support they need. In this emotional isolation, the enemy uses feelings of loneliness to keep the person from seeking out the deeper connections that could bring healing. The impact of isolation on relationships is another crucial aspect of this tactic. Isolation can cause people to withdraw from their loved ones, pushing them away in an attempt to protect themselves from perceived rejection or judgment. This withdrawal makes it harder for people to experience true intimacy or vulnerability with others, which are essential for building deep and meaningful connections. The more a person isolates themselves, the more difficult it becomes for others to reach out and offer support. Relationships suffer, and the individual's mental health declines as they become increasingly disconnected from the very people who could offer help and encouragement. The enemy uses this breakdown in communication to keep the person isolated and to prevent them from experiencing the healing power of genuine relationships. The enemy can also use spiritual isolation to weaken the mind. Spiritual isolation occurs when a person feels disconnected from their faith, or from their sense of purpose and meaning. The enemy works by convincing the individual that they are not worthy of God's love or that their struggles are too great to be overcome. This spiritual disconnection creates a sense of hopelessness, as the person may begin to question their faith, their purpose, and their place in the world. The enemy thrives in these moments of spiritual isolation, feeding the lie that the individual is too far gone to be saved, or that they must fight their battles alone. This feeling of being abandoned spiritually can exacerbate feelings of loneliness, despair, and defeat, making it even harder for the person to seek the support and guidance they need. To break free from the isolation that the enemy seeks to impose, it is essential to reconnect with others and seek out the support that is available. This may involve reaching out to friends, family, or members of a faith community who can offer love, encouragement, and understanding. Rebuilding relationships and seeking out meaningful connections can provide a sense of belonging and support, helping to counteract the feelings of isolation that the enemy tries to sow. Recognizing that the battle for the mind often includes moments of emotional and spiritual isolation allows individuals to take proactive steps to combat these feelings and reclaim their sense of connection and community. Reaching out for help and being open to vulnerability can help dismantle the lies that the enemy uses to isolate the mind, creating a path to healing and restoration. The battle of the mind is an ongoing struggle, one that affects every aspect of our lives. It is a battle that is fought with both visible and invisible forces, shaping how we perceive ourselves, others, and the world around us. Fear, doubt, negativity, isolation, and a myriad of other factors continually work to undermine our sense of worth, purpose, and strength. Recognizing the strategies that are used against us is the first step toward reclaiming control over our thoughts and emotions. Understanding that we are not meant to fight these battles alone is essential in overcoming them. Our minds are powerful, and with the right tools, support, and perseverance, we can begin to replace negative thoughts with ones that are rooted in truth, love, and hope. Every challenge we face in our minds can be an opportunity for growth, resilience, and transformation. The journey may be difficult, but it is not one that we need to walk alone. As we learn to recognize the lies and patterns that seek to hold us back, we open the door to a future that is filled with possibility, peace, and purpose.